Mr. Chairman, have you heard from Bruce Leggett?
Yes, he texted reminding me of the meeting. So I can't imagine that maybe I should have texted back and reminded him of the meeting.
We're still missing quite a few. We'll give them a little bit.
Well, it's 2:00 sharp.
Yeah, in case they're having technical difficulties.
Well, I had to log out and log back in to hear anything.
Okay.
Why, I don't know, but when I logged on the first time, I couldn't hear anything.
Hey, Chris, while we're waiting, may I ask you a question?
Sure.
When you come to the convention and we had a field rep meeting this morning. When you come to the convention in June and speak, will you have a vetted list of vendors that will do rate studies? Rate studies. Do
Yes,
you
ma'am.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we already actually have a list on our website. Okay. I think we have 29. So, but I can send that to you.
No, if you'll just bring that with you, because I think that may be a question that's asked. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, be happy to do that.
Bruce,
I just got a text from Bruce that he's dialing in. I don't know if he had trouble or what, but he says he's dialing in.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll give him just another second or two. It looks like we've got Jamie Burr.
I'm on.
Oh, Bruce is on.
Bruce is on.
Bruce, man.
Hey, Bruce, you're 2 minutes late.
Oh, I was actually early. I kept dialing the wrong number.
That still puts you late, man. You know how you get on me when I'm late.
Yeah, I know. But I don't deserve it.
You're such an
All right. Well, everybody, I think we have enough to get going. I see Roy is trying to sign in. I've received messages.
Recording in progress.
Commissioner Burr that he's on, Commissioner Brewer is on, and then the rest of you we've been having conversations with. So, Mr. Chairman, if you want to call the meeting to order.
Hey, let's start with a roll.
Commissioner Glover.
Go ahead, Megan.
Here.
Commissioner Burr.
Present.
Commissioner Neil Anderson.
Present.
Commissioner William Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Joanne Bush.
Present.
Commissioner Bruce Leggett.
Here.
Commissioner Roy Reeves.
He's here, Megan. I can see him.
I see him. Commissioner Will Brewer.
I'm here.
All right, we've got everybody.
Okay, great. Appreciate everybody so much on this Friday afternoon. When you could be crappie fishing or something, but taking care of business. You are a great group. So our first order of business here is to adoption of the minutes. I know everybody's has read those and everything. So what's your pleasure on the minutes?
I move for adoption.
Will Brewer will second that.
All right. We have a motion and second to adopt the minutes. All in favor, yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. And so the minutes are adopted. Our first order of business is is taking care of the Conservation District final rule amendments. And so we'll go to Megan or Chris or whoever's going to explain that to us.
Okay, it'll be me, Mr. Chair. So back on January 17th at that commission meeting, I presented to you all the amendments to Title II rules governing conservation districts. And those amendments reflect changes that were made legislatively in the 23 legislative session. So in that meeting, you approved for us to move forward in the rules process. The next step of that was to publish that rule publicly for 30 days, and we did that from February 18th to March 18th for public written comment. During that period of time, we received 2 comments on the rule. And as a result of those comments, there was no substantive changes that were needed to be made to the rule. There was a public hearing held at the department on March 15th, and we did not have anybody present any oral comments for the rule. So at this time, since we've gone through those steps in the rulemaking process, this is the step in the process where the commission, if they wish to do so, approves the final rule, which is the same rule that was presented, draft rule that was presented back in January. And if that happens, it will then go to the legislature for their review and approval, and then will be filed with the Secretary of State's office. So then it will be effective 10 days after that filing. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Megan. Very good job. I tell you what, I think, if everybody's agrees, what we'll do, we'll put this on the floor and see if there's a motion, and then we'll have discussion on it. Do I hear a motion on this, approving these amendments?
William Anderson, I'll make a motion.
Joanne,
All right, we have a motion and second. So let's see if we have questions now for Megan or anybody about these.
Yes.
Anybody have any
Yes, this is Roy
discussion or
Reeves.
question?
Hey, this is Roy. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good, because I had trouble getting the audio, so I apologize. But okay, I apologize. I haven't done as much homework as I should. I did have several questions. One is under section 2013. It talks about E, local funds. It says something about funds provided to or earned by the district from a source other than the state during the fiscal year of the request. Why is it limited to the fiscal year of the request?
That is existing language in the rule that's not changing, and so that's something I would have to go back to see if that is legislatively dictated or if that is in the rule.
Here's my point, is for instance, some districts that have done a good job managing their funds have money from prior years that they have done, and this is their funds. They didn't come from the state. These are things that they generated locally, and they generated in prior years. So those are not state funds. States, in my opinion, should have no access to it.
did you say that's 201 what?
It's 201.3 under definitions,
Thank you.
section E.
Thank you.
You bet, Joanne. That was one thing. Okay, give us a brief overview of what happens if a district fails. What happens to any assets they have?
That I'm not sure of as far as what the rule would allow or what law would allow on that. I would have to do some research on that.
Well, okay, is that covered in these rule changes?
Oh, it's not, it doesn't have any impact on the rule changes. Anything that's marked in red or a line through is a change to the rule. Any wording that is left as it is the rule as it stands and will continue to stand.
I understand.
And Roy, let me jump in here for just a second. What we changed, we only changed what really changed in legislation. And so we can take all the comments for future rule changes and go in and go beyond what the legislature changed. But we just needed to expedite this process because the law changed and the rule needs to reflect what changed in the law. And that was really all we were doing other than clean up, changing names of like who we are as far as we're part of the department now. We're not a standalone agency anymore. So that was really all we were trying to accomplish in this. We understand that there are some other things that probably long-term need to change in the rules, but we just needed to go ahead and do this to satisfy what changed legislatively.
Wow, what is the urgency then, and why are we having a special meeting just for this, if there's not some urgency?
There is actually some urgency because state agencies have a certain amount of time to promulgate the rules after a legislative session. So we need to have all these promulgated really by the end of the fiscal year, which is June.
Okay, this is April. Okay,
Still has a legislative process to go through. So these rules still have to go in front of the legislature for their approval. And that sometimes will take a bit of time as well to get on their agenda for that, especially since there is a fiscal session also coming up that starts next week.
And the other thing that I'll add to that is when we started this process, we had to state why we were changing the rules. And we did that on all of our documents based on the 2 legislative changes. So those were the reasons.
Why are we changing rules? I
Because
guess I missed that. Oh,
yeah, as a result of the legislative session.
yeah, I get that. And this really.
oh, I thought you were talking about why the rules were, why the session, why they even done it in the first place, the legislature.
No, we're not
misunderstood.
we're not getting into that part. We're just, as a state agency, if there's a law change, we have to make sure that the rule is in compliance with the law. And that's really all we're doing.
Right. And at some
What?
point can come back, Chris? Is that
Sure.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, you bet. We have the ability to go through the rules process whenever we want to.
Want to?
It's
Okay.
a lengthy process, but and you got to make sure that it complies with state law. But yeah, we can go back and revise rules into the future.
Sure.
Well, you'd have to go back through the legislature, wouldn't you?
Only if you were doing something that was not in harmony with the law. So you have some discretion in the rules, but you can't do anything in the rule that is not in compliance with the law.
I understand. The rules is basically our policy, are they not? The
They
law
are.
determines, and our policy or rules have to operate obviously within the confines of the law.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
So the rules we can change as long as we don't violate the law. We can change rules anytime we want to.
You can. You still have to go through the process, and so we can change it.
What is the process?
So, for example, rules typically have to be approved by the governor's office before you initiate the process. There's the public comment side of it. So the public hearing, public comment. So my point is we can suggest a rule change that maybe the public doesn't like and they comment on it. And so those are the things that you have to take into consideration. And then there's legislative review. And that's still a step that still has to be done with these rules, is they actually have to go before the legislature.
Okay. Of course, the legislature is not going to be knowledgeable about the various intricacies of operating the conservation district office.
I don't know what they would be knowledgeable about, but I know that I've had rules that they questioned and didn't move forward.
Sure.
That took me multiple trips. So they are at times very keen on certain things.
But these changes are strictly because of legislation that has been passed. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
we must comply with this.
Yes,
With-
ma'am.
Okay.
That is correct.
Well, the section 207.3 to me is not even a complete sentence. I believe it's
Section.
think. All right, it's
Two.
207, or maybe it's 208. The department may also withhold funds from this that provide for failure to submit an operating plan acceptable department shall result in the district being disqualified from receiving, I'm assuming it means funds, but there's nothing there. Anyway,
Which section was that?
I believe it's 207.3.
It looks
208?
like there's a word missing at the end of that sentence, Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a strike through. That should have probably said funds from the department.
Yeah. Anyway, it just, okay.
We'll make that note.
Uh,
When's our next, regularly scheduled commission meeting?
May 15th.
Well, if this is not due until June, then we could kind of put this off until the May meeting, couldn't we?
No,
we-
we actually need to get it. To be able to get things on a legislative agenda, they have to be approved. We actually only have till the middle of this month. And so the department has, I think, I don't know, Corey's on here maybe somewhere, but I think there's 5 or 6 rules in the department that are all going through this same process right now. And that was the only purpose really why I called this meeting, because we needed to do it before the middle of the month to be able to meet the legislative schedule. Because you got to remember, the legislature's fixing to be in fiscal session.
But Chris, am I understanding you correctly? Regardless if this comes before us today or whenever, we have to pass it as is, because these are rules that have been amended by legislative action.
Yes, ma'am. And we've already presented this, filed it on the Secretary of State's website as a preliminary rule right after you approved it in January. We sent it out to the public. We did public meeting, public comment, and now we need to go through the process to file it as the final rule.
Yeah. So even if we waited, Bruce, until May, we still don't have an option to change anything.
I know, but we could aggravate them.
No, you don't want, look, if Chris needs this so that he can get it to them in a timely manner, I would think we need to go on and move on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Bruce.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Well, we already have a motion on the floor to
Oh, that's right.
adopt these. We're having discussion now on the motion that's on the floor.
That is correct. So I'll call for the vote.
Okay, all right.
I think you'll need a second.
No, we already got it.
No.
We had a motion and second earlier. Whoever's the secretary, do you not have that down? We had a motion and second earlier before we started this discussion.
Yes, correct. I have William Anderson making the motion, and then Joanne Bush making the second.
Okay. All right. So we're going to try a voice vote first here. All in favor of adopting this motion, say yes.
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 All
Yes.
opposed? All
No.
opposed? No.
Yeah.
No.
No,
Okay, I want to be sure we have this right. So we're going to poll each commissioner. Megan, can you help me with this? Help me go through the poll.
Yes, sir. Let me find my list. Where did
Okay.
I put it? Commissioner Brewer,
yes.
Commissioner Reeves,
No.
Commissioner Leggett,
No.
Commissioner Bush,
Yes.
Commissioner William Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Neil Anderson,
Yes.
Commissioner Burr,
Yes.
Commissioner Glover.
Yes. Okay, so the motion does pass. So we'll move forward with that. And the way I understood this, I understand, and I think that Roy and Bruce brought up some excellent points there. But the way I understand it, this is something that we can discuss and look at later. I do think we were kind of a little bit forward down the road to do that now. So does anyone else want to make a comment here?
Can we put this on the agenda to see about a rule change in our next meeting, or maybe the meeting after that? To start the process or discuss the process of these rule changes that Roy and Bruce have suggested.
Sure. I mean, that's something, if that's what y'all want to see on the agenda, we can definitely look to do that.
Was
Okay,
it-
let's move.
Was it just one that Roy
What
had?
committee of the legislature did this go through? Was it the Ag Committee?
During the session,
Yes.
yes, it was the Agriculture Committee.
Okay.
Roy, was it just that 1203 E? Because they said that they left the wording out and they were going to correct the other. Was there others you were concerned about?
Well, the ones that I raised earlier, that was just a technical correction, that one. My concern is that first of all, we're almost disassociating ourselves in any kind of supervision from districts. But we want to control them. So what we wind up with,
Paige, come here.
if a district is not performing well, we don't really have any way to correct it, but but if a district is performing very well, then we want to control it. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Things like even funding, in our case, thankfully, we're well funded today but it's because of things we did outside of state funds. It's things that we did with the county. It's things that we did in terms of flood control. It's things we did of buying our own building and those kind of things decisions we made. And then with those funds, we bought equipment. And now to say that, okay, if we sell a piece of that equipment, you have to turn the money back into the state. I totally resent that because the state didn't provide the money for it.
Right.
That's the kind of thing I'm concerned about.
I understand that. I certainly understand that.
Well, and Roy, I mean, I don't want to
Roy, I
continue
know,
this discussion for long periods of time, but I mean, y'all don't, if the piece of equipment was bought with district funds, you don't have to turn those funds if you sold it back into us. I mean, most cases, it's to provide guidance on how to dispose of public property, because a district is a public entity, regardless if it received public funds from us or funds from wherever. And so often we provide guidance on how a district should dispose of it. Should it be by auction or gov deals or sent to marketing and redistribution? So that's part of it too, is to be able to provide some oversight.
Yeah.
They don't have a dissolution clause?
I don't know on that, Bruce.
No, we just in the rule we asked them to report to us when if they intend to sell a piece of equipment or property and how they dispose of the property. A lot of times too, there's grant funding that could be involved, federal grant funding or state grant funding involved. And sometimes those come with some strings attached to them on how long equipment and how that process works. When it comes to disposing or getting rid of equipment.
Well, I know that I was familiar with one conservation district that was looking at possibly closing their doors, not because they didn't have any money, but simply because that NRCS didn't have a physical presence there anymore. So that was something discussed back in those days, and they had determined themselves that it was up to them how they disposed of their revenue. And I'm not sure if that's right or not. But I think Roy's got a legitimate question. And you know, of course, this is a bad deal all the way around, in my opinion. But I'm just one. So.
Well, let's
I don't understand how this. What's really aggravating to me in this whole deal is this could be done, and nobody ever come before the commission to seek input into the bill or anything. We find out it's just a done deal. That's no way to do business. No way to do business at all. It almost like, well, nobody cares what we think. And so, you know, that's just the way I look at it. But I'll hush.
well, that's a point well taken. Point well taken. There should be respect for the commission. Well,
And
what
people
about
that's responsible for it, they ought to be ashamed. So that's just the way I see it.
All right. Well, what about we put this on the agenda? Maybe we can all have a little bit more time to be more prepared and to discuss what we're looking at. And Bruce has got a good point. I mean, that was no way to conduct business with the commission, just to shun the commission. And maybe we can discuss that too and kind of get it all out on the floor. Would y'all agree with that?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, could I have a request? And after the rules that we've approved today have been changed, can we get a unmarked completed file?
Yes, sir.
You bet. We'll have to file a markup and a clean copy.
Yes. Yeah, clean copy is what I was looking at, to be easier to read, and then we could review that clean copy.
Yeah, you bet. Not a problem.
Okay, if there's no other discussion, we're going to move on. But we're leaving it open to discuss this more later. The next item of business on the agenda is financial assistance. And I think Ryan is in charge of that.
Thank you, Chairman. So while you know this meeting was specifically called for the district rules, we want to take the opportunity to work on a few projects that where we've had bid overruns. As you know, right now the construction market is very saturated right now. We have a lot of bids coming back higher than we originally anticipated, and in some cases we're not getting bidders on some of the projects. So everything you're going to hear today, you've already approved before, either for ARPA funds, for traditional loan funds or grant funds, or both in some cases. So what happened is these projects either went to bid or are going to bid, know they're going to need more dollars, and those are time critical. So once a bid comes back, especially if we get a bidder, they need to be able to move on those projects if we can, as quick as possible. So we wanted to take this opportunity to get you to approve some bid overrun additional financial assistance. So I'm going to go quickly through these projects. Once again, you've approved them once, but they did come back for additional funds. And then if it's all right with the chairman, I'll go through all of them. And then we can, then you can vote on them. You can pull one out if you want, but vote on them as a package. The other thing before I get started, if you notice, if you can see, we did ask and got representatives from the folks requesting these funds on this Zoom call today. I can't confirm every single city, but I think they all are on here. And in some cases, their engineer and the city is on here. So if you have any specific questions, they'll be there to answer them also. But with that, I'll go through the list. I'm just going to go through the packet as it was presented to you. The first one is for the city of Amity. They have an ARPA project that went to bid, and they came back needing additional funds. So this is an additional $300,000 in loan from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. The next one is for the city of Danville. They got bids back and need an additional $3,725,853. This is coming out of the GEO bond program. So it does include a 3% issuance fee.
And what was the original amount we approved for Danville?
Okay, so let's see. For Danville, they had an ARPA award in the amount that looks like of $1,116,105.
And so wait a minute. So they're asking for a project that was going to be originally be done for $1 million. It's now going to be $1.1 million plus the $3.7 million.
That is the additional funds they need to go forward with the project. Yes.
So in other words, it's 4 times what they were expecting.
I'm not sure if they had other funds at one time to go into the project, but we are seeing definitely in what we call treatment plant work, either wastewater or water, we're seeing this kind of increases in cost. So if you can get a bidder, most of the treatment plant work we've seen, they have a hard time even getting a bidder. So this does not, it's shocking in one regard, but very consistent across the market right now.
4 times is consistent?
Yeah, we have other projects that have been that high. That's a little unusual. But we have other projects, much bigger projects that came back that much higher. In some cases, you're dealing, so these are ARPA dollars. So that cost estimate probably came from 2021 so you're looking at a 3 or 4 year old cost estimate, and we're seeing those costs come back significantly higher.
And I'll say on this project, they initially had planned to use other funds for half of it. So the initial project budget, I believe, was somewhat higher.
Okay. So it looks like it came in probably closer to a third higher than budget. All right. Next is the city of Devils Bluff. They got bids back. They need an additional $138,000 from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund is what we're recommending. City of Foreman in Little River County needs an additional $206,000. So we're proposing that from the Water Development Fund. So it includes a 3% issuance fee. City of Luxora needs an additional $923,048, proposing that from the General Obligation Bond Program, including a 3% issuance fee for their project. City of Risen, bids came back higher and they need an additional $1,400,000 in loan. We're proposing that from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. City of Stuttgart, bids came back higher. They need an additional $2,347,000, and we're proposing that in a loan from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Southwest Arkansas Water Facilities Board of Hempstead County. This actually encompassed 3 different projects altogether that they received ARPA funds for, but they need an additional $200,000 to complete those projects, and we're proposing from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. City of West Fork, a project came back over budget as the rest, and so they need an additional $850,000 in a loan, and we're seeing the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for that project. So as you can see, this is very common. Now I will say these are all up tos. In some cases, they'll probably be trying to value engineer the project and only use what they need. We saw that from the bid overruns that we proposed that you approved last time, that they're not all having to take that amount of money. But this would allow them to move forward, accept bids, and move forward with these projects for two things. One is to get needed projects done, and two, to utilize the ARPA dollars, which have a very definite time period where they need to be spent. So with that, answer any questions. The cities or their consultants are online, and appreciate a good vote.
Ryan, I spoke with Chris, I think it was yesterday. Will all these loans be at 4% or what?
So yeah, they would generally be at the current rates for whichever fund that we approve them out of. And I will tell you, you see some out of, generally we put people into those two federal programs, which have a lower rate. But in some cases, the project may have started not doing federal requirements. And so we had to put them in a state program. So they, at a slightly higher rate where they did not meet where they don't have to meet all the federal requirements. But generally it'll be at prevailing rate for the additional dollars.
I tell you what, can we move forward with this like we did the last agenda item? Do we have a motion, and then we'll discuss that motion?
Will Brewer will make that motion.
Do what?
Will Brewer will make that motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
Neil Anderson.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor that we do approve these extra fundings. Now let's discuss if we want to have any discussion of the whole package or of any one individual. We have the expertise here to answer those questions.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my question would be, like some of the smaller cities, if it's going to be a loan, and have you spoken with them, and are they able to pay this loan back at the interest rate?
So yeah, we've worked with each of them. They've all requested these funds, and we've let them know that we would be making this recommendation. We only have loan funds right now. We do the principal forgiveness in November. So yeah, they do know their loan funds. Now because of the speed of getting these on an agenda, we haven't completely completed underwriting, but I will say there's two things that happen with the city right now. Is one is they have all these grant dollars they don't want to lose that they've already been awarded that they need to go to construction on, or two, obviously the need for the project is so great that they have to pay the additional dollars. So we have worked with them. We've gotten a request from the cities or the systems for these increased funds.
And what did you say about what will be available, Ryan, in November loan forgiveness?
So yeah, so we only allocate what we call principal forgiveness dollars, which is what we get out of the federal program. You do that every year in November now. So you allocate all the dollars we have. We have way more projects that qualify and request than you have funds. We can only do principal forgiveness for what we call new money that we get each year at the beginning of the federal fiscal year. So right now, what we have available are loan dollars.
Okay. And this packet will not be affected by, they can't apply for loan forgiveness in November.
Not for these projects. These projects all have bids and have met all the requirements and are going to construction as soon as we can get this money approved.
Okay.
Okay, good question, Joanne. What other discussion do we have on this as a package or individually? Any other discussion? Okay, if I don't hear any other discussion, we're going to take a vote on this. All in favor of approving these additional funds for these projects, say yes.
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 Opposed, no. So the motion does pass.
Mr. Chairman, before Ryan leaves, May I ask him another question, please?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Ron, has any entity lost their funding because they did not meet the deadline of reporting of March 31st? Or what is it? Yeah.
No, you're correct. So no, we have not. We have had some folks decline funding, and we've all, we have a little bit we can allocate, but so far we're still working with entities. Some cases, some of these needed this additional dollars before they could meet that requirement. So we did not want to pull their ARPA funds because they needed these additional dollars. There's some
Right.
others that are working through some final permitting issues with some other agencies. So at this point, we're going to try to work with everyone we can that can move forward. And a decision on, pulling ARPA dollars will be made by the director at a time, in the future. So we have
Okay.
not done that yet. We do have a few that probably are lagging so far behind or haven't made enough progress where that's probably likely. But we're working with everyone as best we can before we move those dollars on. We did do a survey of all the wait list projects, because if we were to move dollars on, we need to make sure that those projects on the wait list can move forward, right? So that they can move forward quickly. So we did that survey, and we're working through getting those responses back now.
Okay. And did you say you have had some ARPA funds returned?
Yeah, so we had two things that occurred so far. We had some projects that actually came in under budget. So they did not utilize all their funds. And so we actually authorized the very first one on the wait list, but then that project has subsequently declined the funding. So we do have a little over $1 million right now that we will be allocating, but it's not enough funds right now to fund, a full project. So we're looking to see if we can combine that with some additional returned dollars to fund a full project on the wait list. So yeah, we've had a combination, a couple that have turned down the funds completely, including the first one on the wait list we tried to allocate, and then some dollars that have come back because they were under budget.
Okay. And so y'all just work with them one-on-one as funds. Hopefully you won't get much return, but you will work with the wait list one-on-one.
We will. So, for example, when we've got enough to fund the very first one on the drinking water wait list, we went ahead and reached out to them and awarded it. Now, subsequently, they declined the funding, but we got enough money to move to one, and we did. And as soon as we get enough funds to move to additional ones on the wait list, we'll do that also.
Okay.
Well,
And then,
excuse me, go ahead.
do you all intend to report back after you've gotten several funded to the commission?
So yeah, I usually try to do about I think we've been doing an ARPA update, but we'll make sure we do one in May for the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Ryan, I was just thinking about from a procedural standpoint, you mentioned you had about $1 million come back, but yet the number one on your wait list was more than $1 million. So do you not look at number two or something that might be less than $1 million or going down so you could help some others?
So yeah, I mean, that is we got a commitment from y'all, or a agreement that we would fund them per the wait list. And so, if we were to jump over somebody and use the $1 million, but then we get enough money to fund we get a few more dollars that would have allowed us to fund the first one, we would never be able to get to actually we're at number 2 on the list now. You see what I'm saying? So we're kind of looking to see at some point, if we get satisfied that this is the amount we think we're going to get back, then exactly what you said, we would probably offer it to the next one on the wait list. Hey, we can't fully fund your project, but are you willing to move forward if, let's say, all you can get is $1 million of your $3 million request?
That's what I was talking about.
So we will, but we're really thinking we're going to get some additional dollars. Everything, as bad as it sounds with bid overruns, we've actually had some projects that have been able to move just fine under budget. So we are having some success with some bids, but the majority are having to come get additional funds. So we're hoping to get some additional dollars turned back from those funds, as opposed to having to, withdraw someone's ARPA for failure to move forward.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Just to put things in perspective, I drilled 2 new wells this spring to replace some old ones, and they were double what they were 3 years ago. And I blame it on all this government money going out here to redo all these plants and stuff, and it's just made that type of material double in cost because it's unreal.
Mr. Chairman, this is William Anderson. I have been there with Neil as a consumer of irrigation projects, underground pipe, wells, and about 3 or maybe, I guess 3 years ago, 12-inch underground pipe was $5.50, $6 a foot, something like that. And now it's $10 and $12 a foot. You know, it's unreal. It's absolutely unreal. And I agree with Neil. I think the effect, the cause of this is too much government money in circulation.
Well, those it's tough times we live in, and those are good examples. Thank you for those, guys. Anybody else have any discussion or questions here? Well, if not, I don't want to move you on too fast, but we're going to move along. Is there any other business that needs to come before the commission today?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this is Commissioner Burr. I was curious if you would allow staff a little bit of time to give the commission an update on the non-point pollution plan that's currently under public comment, and just give an overview and then the timeline for which we'll see to vote on as a commission.
Yes, sir. So I guess we'll turn that back to Chris.
Actually, I'm gonna probably turn that back over to Ryan.
I'm going to turn it over to Tate. So, no, is Tate? I think I saw Tate on here.
Yeah, Tate's
Good afternoon,
on.
everybody.
There you go.
Good question, Commissioner Burr. So we did release a 30-day stakeholder technical review of our 5-year non-point source management plan. This is the guiding roadmap for the state for a 5-year implementation of the non-point source pollution abatement program, which is delegated by US EPA to the state of Arkansas. So this is a pretty technical document, but it is how we recommend guiding the 319 funds or the non-point source dollars for the next 5 years for the state. So that document was emailed out to the non-point source stakeholder work group, again, for technical review and a 30-day review. The document is on our website. So if at the May commission meeting, so that public review period or the stakeholder review period will actually close May 3rd. So at the May commission meeting, we can give an update on the technical comments received by stakeholders and the suggested revisions to the document and path forward with EPA.
Thank you, Tate. Mr. Chair, I would like for us to have a discussion about potentially extending the timeline for public comment and allow the commission to hear what is within the technical aspects of this plan. This is an important 5-year plan to the state, and I think the commission should understand what the potential implications are prior to public comment closing, so that we can ensure if the commissioners have anything to say that it's embodied in that public comment as well.
Okay, thank you very much. How do we want to move forward with that?
Now, I'm going to have a question for Tate. Tate, it's not a formal 30-day public comment period.
I was trying to grab Commissioner Burr's attention and clarify that, and I was muted. So you're correct. This is not a true public comment period. This is a technical stakeholder review. There's a little bit of a difference. under the Clean Water Act and federal delegation, we are not technically required to do a formal public comment period. This is because this is a pretty technical document. We are asking technical stakeholders. We could do an extension if that is the recommendation of the commission and, Director Colclasure. But again, we're just asking for very technical review of this document, and if there's any significant changes, if our partners had any comments on that. So I just wanted point of clarification.
Hey, second question, when is it due? I mean, I know
May 3rd.
No, when is it due? When do we need to get the final version to EPA?
We don't have a final due date. We do have a current extension. The previous plan was May 2018 to 2023. So we've already received an extension through this review period from Region 6. So we do have a window. So we don't actually have a final due date other than calendar year 24.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Fellow commissioners, I would strongly urge you to try time to review this, because there are some long-term implications of this to stakeholders.
What do you feel? Do you feel this is something that we should put on the agenda in a commission meeting?
Absolutely. I think we should, but before this is completely finalized, I think the commission, instead of having to deal with what we just dealt with having to vote on rules that we really don't, from my perspective, have a choice one way or the other, I think we ought to review it proactively.
Okay, good point. Very good point. So we probably need, I know I need some being brought up to speed on this. So it probably would, do you agree it would probably be better for us to discuss this when we had it on the agenda and maybe had plans where we could be brought, the commission could be brought up to speed? Is that the right way to proceed?
I would 100% agree. I think it's easier to comprehend when we're in the room than on phones.
Okay. All right. So Chris, you think we could look into that about when we can bring everybody up to speed and discuss this and see if there's any action we need to take?
Yeah, so the way that I see it is we can have Tate kind of give a general overview of what's in it, high level summary, but also provide it to you as a document that you can review. But it is a very technical document, but we can do a general overview, and then Tate, there's no reason why we can't extend the time period to go beyond the May 15 commission meeting, correct?
No, sir. And what we'll do is go ahead and send out to all stakeholders a notice of extension. And then we will distribute all the materials to the commission that we sent out to stakeholders, so you all can start reviewing that. There is a summary document of all the significant changes from 2018 to 2023 to the current draft plan that we'll send out. That'll be the very first document, so you all know all the major changes that have occurred.
And Tate, just for the record, just so everybody understands, it is not a regulatory document. It is a management plan, correct?
Correct. All of our practices through the non-point source program are voluntary and non-regulatory. This is just a guiding document of what the state deems are highest priority for non-point source, again, of how we, of all the potential avenues of how we can direct the non-point source funding in the state. That is the intent of the plan.
But Mr. Chairman, to answer your question, we'll put this on the agenda for May.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Does that sound like a wise idea to everybody and one that would be satisfactory?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll plan on doing.
I believe so.
Okay, what other items do we need to take up in this meeting? We have anything else we want to bring before the commission? Okay, hearing none, last chance, speaker forever hold your peace. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Opposed, no? Okay, consider ourselves adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
You too.
Enjoy the eclipse.
Thanks, everybody.